Latest rocket launch is such a big deal. Pakistan is gearing up to host the SEO Summit tomorrow. India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar will be there. We'll tell you what to expect. And is there life on Jupiter's moon? A new investigation is making waves. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Iran says no grounds for indirect talks with the US. It wants the crisis in West Asia to be resolved first. In June, Tehran held indirect talks with Washington via Oman. Since 1980, Iran and the United States have had no diplomatic ties. For years now, Oman has mediated between the two countries. Russia's defense minister meets his Chinese counterpart in Beijing. Since the Ukraine war started in February 2022, Moscow and Beijing have ramped up their military and economic cooperation. Last month, Russian and Chinese warships carried out joint drills in the Sea of Japan. An Italian naval ship heads to Albania. It is carrying the first group of would-be asylum seekers. They were intercepted in the Mediterranean Sea. Last November, Italy signed a controversial 5-year migrant deal with Albania. It has been widely criticized by human rights groups. Iceland's president to decide on holding snap polls this week. Yesterday, the Prime Minister announced the government's resignation. It was over deep divisions within the three-party coalition. The president, who has been in power for less than 3 months, said that she would consult all parties before making her decision. The gloves are off between India and Canada. It's an unprecedented escalation. New Delhi has downgraded its relationship with Canada. We have a High Commissioner in Ottawa, but he, along with other diplomats, have been recalled. It's the latest chapter in a year-long standoff. Just a short while back, New Delhi summoned Canada's top diplomat in India. The High Commissioner is not in the country, so the chargé d'affaires stepped in. He was at the External Affairs Ministry for nearly 20 minutes, the Canadian chargé d'affaires. By all accounts, it was a feisty talk. And look at the MEA statement that came out afterwards. India is withdrawing its High Commissioner from Canada. Listen to the reasons, and I'm quoting. It was underlined that in an atmosphere of extremism and violence, the Trudeau government's actions endangered the safety of diplomats. We have no faith in the current Canadian government's commitment to ensure their security. So India believes that its diplomats are not safe in Canada, and with good reason. Let me show you a video that Khalistani groups uploaded on their social media. They're burning an effigy of the High Commissioner of India to Canada. Now, there is context to what is happening here. On Sunday, Canada delivered a message to New Delhi. They said that Indian diplomats were persons of interest in a probe, including the High Commissioner. They were persons of interest, so they may be investigated. They did not say which probe, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out which. The Hardeep Singh Nijjar case, the killing of a Khalistani separatist in Surrey in Canada. Remember, Justin Trudeau had blamed India for the murder, and now it is probing, his government is probing the Indian High Commissioner as well. His name is Sanjay Kumar Verma. He is the top Indian diplomat in Canada, also the senior most in the government of India. High Commissioner Verma has 36 years of service under his belt. He's been posted in Japan, Italy, China and Turkey. But India is now calling him back. We'll get to New Delhi's reactions in a bit, but first, listen to Canada's chargé d'affaires.
Canada has done what India has long been asking for. Canada has provided credible, irrefutable evidence of ties between agents of the government of India and a murder of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. Now it is time for India to live up to what it said it would do and look into those allegations. It is in the interest of both our countries and the peoples of our countries. To get to the bottom of this, Canada stands ready to cooperate with India.
Canada says it has credible and irrefutable evidence. If that is the case, it raises some questions like, what is this piece of evidence? Why hasn't it been publicized? And why did Canada wait so long? These are questions that only the Trudeau government can answer. As for India, this is a strong message. You don't recall high commissioners unless the situation is dire, unless you want to downgrade the relationship. India has done this with Pakistan. The last instance was in 2019 after the Pulwama attack. New Delhi decided to call its envoy back. And even today in 2024, India has no high commissioner in Islamabad. Of course, with Pakistan, you expect that. But this is a new low for Canada. It tells you how Justin Trudeau has hurt this relationship. And it's not over yet. India has issued a warning to Canada. Let me quote again. It was also conveyed that India reserves the right to take further steps in response to the Trudeau government's support for extremism, violence and separatism against India. Like I said, it's not over yet. Canada could order a tit-for-tat move. India could escalate again, and this whole face-off could blow up further. But why now? Because this has been brewing for a while. So why these actions now? Well, Trudeau is currently in trouble. His Khalistani buddy, Jagmeet Singh, has dumped him. This is the internal politics of Canada. As you know, Jagmeet leads the NDP, or the New Democratic Party. That's his political party. Justin Trudeau needed their support to stay in power. It's a coalition government. So right now, he does not have a majority in Parliament because Jagmeet has dumped him. If elections are held now in Canada, Justin Trudeau would lose. Look at what the opinion polls say. Nearly 43% Canadians back the Conservative Party, that is the opposition. Only 22% support Justin Trudeau. What about Mr. Khalistan? Even worse, at 18%, that's his support base. So could this whole thing be a distraction, a typical foreign meddling bogey? Well, the Indian government has certainly hinted at that. We saw two statements from New Delhi today. We've told you about the latest one, but the first one is even more explosive. Listen to what it says. I'm quoting again. Prime Minister Trudeau's hostility to India has long been in evidence. Under criticism for turning a blind eye to foreign interference in Canadian politics, his government has deliberately brought in India an attempt to mitigate the damage. It is no coincidence that it takes place as Prime Minister Trudeau is to depose before a commission on foreign interference. The full statement that the Ministry of External Affairs in India released today is quite critical. It recalls Justin Trudeau's 2018 visit to India. You may remember that one, the one where he dressed up like a wannabe Bollywood actor. It also talks about his comments on the farmers' protest in India. It even mentions his alliance with Jagmeet Singh. If you follow Indian reactions, Indian diplomatic reactions, you would know that this statement is quite unusual. Our statements never go into this kind of detail, nor do they delve into domestic politics of other countries, which makes one thing quite clear. India has run out of patience with Justin Trudeau. Remember, he is the one who started this whole thing last year. Trudeau stood up in Canada's parliament and pointed fingers at India. That too for the killing of a Khalistani separatist, a man designated as a terrorist by New Delhi. What's more, he gave no evidence. You just heard the Canadian diplomat. He says credible evidence has been passed on to India. But look at New Delhi's statement. I'm quoting again. The Canadian government has not shared a shred of evidence with the government of India despite many requests from our side. Multiple extradition requests from the government of India in respect of terrorists and organized crime leaders living in Canada have been disregarded. Do you see the difference here? Canada says credible evidence was given. India says not a shred of evidence was shared. And this has only gone from bad to worse in the last few months. Trudeau has mishandled this whole situation. He could have opted for quiet diplomacy, but he chose to make a spectacle out of it, to put pressure on India. He also kept defending the separatist voices in Canada, whether it was threats against Indian diplomats or demands for a Khalistan referendum, or even the glorification of an Indian Prime Minister's assassination. You don't expect this from friendly countries. But Justin Trudeau turned a blind eye to all of it. The path he chose inevitably led to this point. A downgrading of this important relationship. We certainly haven't heard the last of this squabble yet. We'll be tracking the updates closely for you. America is formally re-entering the war in West Asia. They're sending troops to Israel. At least 100 American soldiers will be deployed to Israel, and they will bring with them the THAAD missile defense system. Washington says this will boost Israel's defenses. The THAAD system will be operated by the U.S. soldiers stationed there. Listen to this.
Get the permission for the THAAD to be deployed in Israel?
Defend Israel.
The significance of this move is not lost on anyone. For the first time since Israel's war in Gaza began last year, America is deploying troops to fight with the IDF, along with the IDF. Remember, the US already has a military base in Israel, an old one located some 30 kilometers from Gaza. It has some American soldiers. We cannot confirm how many. But this is mostly used to monitor the sky for any missile attacks. That's what they use this base for. Since last month, the US started expanding its military presence. First, they stepped up troop deployment. Last month, 2,000 to 3,000 troops were sent to West Asia to various American military bases in the region. Washington has also sent more warships. As of today, there are at least 6 US warships in West Asia. If needed, all these assets can be mobilized to defend Israel. Now, by putting 100 soldiers in Israel, the US is taking a bigger step. It says this is to protect Israel from Iranian attacks. In fact, let me quote from the Pentagon. This action underscores the United States' ironclad commitment to the defense of Israel and to defend Americans in Israel from any further ballistic missile attacks by Iran. The THAAD is designed for the exact same purpose, to defend against ballistic missile attacks. In fact, the THAAD is similar to the Russian-made S-400 missile system. One THAAD system has 6 missile launchers. They are mounted on trucks, and each system comes with 48 interceptors. An interceptor is basically a missile. It shoots down enemy missiles. Plus, the THAAD is equipped with radios and radars. This entire system is operated by a team of 95 soldiers. The Americans are sending 100. The question is, did they have to? Are they worried about another Iranian attack, a bigger one possibly? Iran is certainly making its intent clear. Listen to their latest warning that came over the weekend.
We are prepared for any kind of circumstances. We are ready for war, but we are also ready for peace. War, conflict, and operations against the people of Gaza and Lebanon must be stopped.
We are ready for war. That's their message for Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, who's been saying that a retaliatory strike is coming in response to the Iranian attack on October 1. That's when Iran fired almost 200 missiles on Israel. It was responding to the attacks on Hezbollah. This has become a vicious cycle. Now Israel is preparing a counterattack, and the deployment of American troops could be part of this preparation. Israel could be beefing up its defenses before striking Iran. Because look at the damage caused by Tehran. Some 2,500 structures in Israel were damaged. That's what a report says, 2,500 structures. This cost Israel anywhere between $40 to $53 million, which basically means that Iran breached Israel's missile defenses. Now the THAAD will add another layer of protection. And Israel needs it. In the multi-front war that it is fighting, it is facing more attacks from the north as well. The Hezbollah is firing at Israeli forces. Yesterday, they struck an Israeli military base near Haifa. Reports say the Hezbollah launched a swarm of drones, killing 4 Israeli soldiers.
At around 7 o'clock in the evening, an unmanned aerial vehicle of Hezbollah infiltrated from Lebanon and struck this base. We are managing the incident. We will study and investigate the incident and how a UAV infiltrates without alerts and strikes the base.
Israel is stepping up its operations in Lebanon and Gaza, and it is planning a bigger attack on Iran. The arrival of US troops and missile defense systems can mean only one thing: it will get worse before it gets better. So rockets are flying over the Israel-Lebanon border, which is a problem for India because Indian soldiers are deployed there, nearly 900 of them. We told you about this last week too. A United Nations peacekeeping force is stationed at this border. It is called UNIFIL, or the UN Interim Force in Lebanon. UNIFIL. Look at their latest statement. It says 2 Israeli tanks fired at the entrance of their base. Israeli soldiers then forcibly entered UN premises. They asked the peacekeepers to turn out the lights. When they refused, the IDF, the Israeli soldiers, left. A few hours later, another incident happened. Some firing near the same UN position. Around 15 peacekeepers reported skin irritation and gastrointestinal reactions. They were subsequently given treatment. And all of this happened on Sunday. Just a day before that, on Saturday, there was another incident. UNIFIL was conducting a routine movement at the border. Reports say Israeli soldiers stopped them and denied passage to these UN peacekeepers. So put together, around 5 incidents have been reported in 5 days. What is Israel trying to do here? Why are they targeting UN peacekeepers? Listen to what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said.
Mr. Secretary General, get the UNIFIL forces out of harm's way. It should be done right now, immediately.
Your refusal to evaluate UNIFIL soldiers makes them hostages in the hands of Hezbollah. It endangers them as well as our soldiers.
So Israel wants the peacekeepers to move. Then why aren't they? Well, for starters, it is not Netanyahu's decision to make. It is up to the contributing countries, the countries who've sent these soldiers. They will decide whether their soldiers will move or not. Now, there are nearly 10,000 personnel at the Lebanon border. They come from nearly 50 countries, and they have a job to do to ensure that the border is stable and peaceful. I know what you're thinking. It sounds like the peacekeepers have failed miserably. Well, they have. It is not a stable border. But UN missions are not just strategic, they also have a political value. Countries of the world collectively decided to put troops in Lebanon. One country cannot threaten and push them out. Which brings us to India. New Delhi has balanced its position quite nicely so far. It has defended Israel's right to fight terrorism. At the same time, India has asked Netanyahu to respect international laws. But in this case, the stakes are higher. Like I said, nearly 900 Indian soldiers are stationed there. What if they are hurt by Israel? It won't be a foreign policy issue then. It could become a domestic issue, which is why a lot of countries are enraged. 34 of these countries issued a joint statement on Saturday. And these are all countries that contribute soldiers to UNIFIL. Their soldiers are deployed on the border with Lebanon. 34 countries. They reaffirmed their support to the UN mission. They also condemned attacks on the UN peacekeepers. Interestingly, India was not part of this joint statement of 34 countries. But 90 minutes after the statement was released, New Delhi decided to back it. India said it aligns fully with the joint statement. So what should we make of it? Was India hesitant to join it? Was India not asked? Or is this just logistical confusion? Only the government can answer these questions. But one thing is pretty clear: Israel's actions are driving its supporters away, especially those in Europe.
Totally unacceptable to see UNIFIL troops deliberately targeted by the Israeli armed forces. We condemn it. We will not tolerate it and will not tolerate it happening again.
It is unacceptable. It violates what was established by Resolution 1701 of the United Nations. The Italian government, as you know, has strongly protested with the Israeli authorities.
They're naming and condemning Israel. And not just on this issue. Last month, Israel did something unprecedented. They banned the United Nations chief from entering their country. Do you know why? Over his response to the Iranian missile attack. Israel says it wasn't harsh enough. After the ban, 105 UN member states got together. They criticized Israel for the ban. They also reaffirmed their faith in the UN chief. But guess who did not join the statement? Again, India. We don't know the reason yet, but it appears to be political. New Delhi may not want to jeopardize its relations with Israel, which does make sense. India has always believed in sorting out issues privately. So why change that now? Especially over a symbolic move like banning the UN chief. But attacks on the peacekeepers is a different matter altogether. A, because our soldiers are there, and B, because it is a sensitive issue for the global south. You see, these European nations may kick up a storm, but they're not the backbone of UN peacekeeping. It's the global south. Look at the top 20 troop contributors to the United Nations. Nepal is number 1, Rwanda number 2, then come Bangladesh and India. 19 of the top 20 countries are from the global south. Only 1, Italy, is from the developed world. So India has to be mindful of that. As a major power, New Delhi's opinion matters. Other global south countries look up to India for guidance. So once again, New Delhi must strike a balance between support for Israel, support for international laws, and standing up for its own soldiers. The video you just saw was a propaganda clip released by the Chinese military. It shows Chinese troops participating in drills. In the same video, there's a cartoon as well. Look at this carefully. The video that the Chinese have released, it shows Lai Ching-te, the president of Taiwan. Basically, the Chinese made a caricature of President Lai, showing him with pointed ears like the devil, along with a map of Taiwan. Now, moments later, Lai's image on the screen disappears. It is replaced by flying jets, warships, and Chinese troops surrounding Taiwan. This video came with an ominous warning.
Every time the Taiwan independent separatist forces provoke us, we will counteract further until the complete reunification of the motherland is achieved.
China unleashed a wave of propaganda today as its troops held a massive military drill around Taiwan. There were more than 100 warplanes, drones and choppers in the air, and over 30 warships operating around the island of Taiwan. China said its forces were positioned, and I'm quoting, around the island. They were conducting drills in at least 9 areas surrounding Taiwan, 2 on the island's east coast, 3 on the west coast, 1 in the north, and 3 near China's coastline. This area was close to the remote islands which Taipei controls. So Taiwan was practically surrounded by the Chinese military today. The PLA was, and I'm quoting, simulating an attack on Taiwan. The question is why? Why now, in fact? Why does China feel the need for the show of strength? Beijing is calling it punishment, literally. These exercises have been dubbed as punishment drills as a way to send a tough message to Taiwan.
What I can tell you is that Taiwan independence is incompatible with peace in the Taiwan Strait, and the provocations of the Taiwan independence forces will inevitably be countered.
So what is China so angry about? And why is it going after President Lai? Let me give you the context here. Last week, Taiwan observed its National Day. President Lai delivered a speech on the occasion. He launched a scathing attack on China. He said Beijing has no right to represent Taiwan.
On this land, democracy and freedom are growing and thriving. The People's Republic of China has no right to represent Taiwan.
That was a bold statement, but it wasn't unexpected. Lai was simply reiterating his stated position that Taiwan is independent. He said this before. His party too has stuck to this line. But it was perhaps his tone that upset Beijing so much. In fact, let me quote from China's statement on Taiwan's President Lai. This is what they said. This is a resolute punishment for Lai Ching-te's continuous fabrication of Taiwan independence nonsense. That's right. China called the Taiwanese president's speech nonsense, and it launched the punishment drills. Needless to say, Taiwan has condemned this, both China's drills and the statements. They've condemned both, but words, however strong, won't suffice in this case. Given China's behavior and belligerence, Taiwan must be prepared militarily. So it is reviewing its combat readiness.
We have ordered all the units of the three armed forces to review the appropriateness and use the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance systems to closely monitor the developments of the Chinese Communist Party's rocket force units, in accordance with the regulations on handling emergencies during the combat readiness period and all outlying island defense areas to increase vigilance.
Taiwan's main ally, the US, has also taken note of the Chinese drills. Washington has termed them unwarranted, asking China to not escalate the situation and to show restraint. But Beijing has refused to dial down the tensions. In fact, it has threatened to hold more such drills in the future. We say the world should take note of this, because this exercise marks a new phase in cross-strait tensions. Earlier, Chinese actions were limited to incursions. Now the PLA is openly practicing how to take Taiwan by force, and Chinese mouthpieces are ramping up the war rhetoric. Consider what the Global Times has said. It's a Chinese mouthpiece, the Global Times. It published a critique of Lai's speech and described it, and I'm quoting, as a poison pill wrapped in cellophane. China calls President Lai a separatist. It has refused to engage with him, and now it is stepping up military pressure on him, turning the Taiwan Strait and the region into a more dangerous place.
Zaka, big move this, perhaps the strongest action that's been taken. And would you agree if we say that the relationship with Canada is at its all-time nadir?
Low. India has never withdrawn a Canadian High Commissioner or Indian High Commissioner in Canada ever before. So this is in that sense a very unprecedented step. And if you look at the MEA statement, it was on the basis of these baseless targeting of the Indian High Commissioner Sanjay Kumar Verma, who's been named as a person of interest. That is as good as saying that he's a suspect in a murder investigation, as well as other diplomats and officials in Canada. This was completely unacceptable to India, and therefore the Stewart Wheeler, who is the chargé d'affaires, the highest ranking official of Canada available in Delhi at this time, was summoned to the MEA, and he was conveyed that, look, we are withdrawing our ambassador. It's a huge move, Anand, because the last time India withdrew its High Commissioner or ambassador from any country was in Pakistan. This was in 2019 after the abrogation of Article 370. Both countries had withdrawn their respective High Commissioners. Even at the height of the Devyani Khobrgade episode that was in 2013, where our diplomat had to be forcibly brought back, the High Commissioners were still very much active. The ambassadors were very much active. So recall of High Commissioners or ambassadors usually happens at a time when countries are at war with each other. So to that extent, and that too, recalling the High Commissioner of a Western country is a very unprecedented move. I think the government of India, basically the last straw was what happened in Vientiane at the ASEAN Summit just a few days ago. The Prime Minister was there, and there were these reports of Justin Trudeau meeting the Prime Minister, confronting him with new facts, so on and so forth. But fact of the matter is that he made those allegations way back in September of 2023, the Prime Minister of Canada, on the floor of the Canadian Parliament. It's been over a year, and there's been no material evidence that has been provided by the Canadian authorities to substantiate the allegations made by Justin
It is
Trudeau.
very interesting because the Canadian envoy there, the CDA, Zaka, just now is on record saying that we have submitted detailed evidences to showcase the connection of the Indian High Commission with these elements. That's what they are saying. They claim we have shown detailed evidences, whereas Bharat has said that no evidence has been so far produced, and these are just baseless charges. We've been asking year on year, give us actionable intelligence, and all that's been shared by Canada has been shared with some of the other Five Eyes nations, and there's nothing that's been shown which is concrete when these allegations are made. Ambassador J.K. Tripathi is with us. Ambassador Tripathi, how would you see this big step? Zaka was saying after Pakistan, other than Pakistan, this step has not been taken with any other nation. So is this an
Yes, you are correct. But this Canadian allegation to Indian High Commissioner there in Ottawa is completely uncalled for and completely unacceptable. I mean, no High Commissioner, not at least from India, no Indian High Commissioner or ambassador can put his reputation or his country's reputation at stake by being involved in somebody's case. This is atrocious, and we had been shouting from the rooftop for last more than 1 year that okay, give us evidence, and now after 1 year they come up and say that here is the evidence, which is nothing. So this is, I think this is very good step by Indian government. And next will be that Canadian High Commissioner will also be issued marching orders.
Well, but what does this imply, Ambassador Tripathi? What does this mean?
No, it certainly implies deterioration of the bilateral relations. And because you know, this is the first step is to downgrade the relations by recalling the ambassador or high commissioner. So this is the first stage where Pakistan is also there. With Pakistan also we don't have high commissioner here, they don't have our high commissioner there. Only CDA one. Same thing is going to happen here. So this is just to show that look, we will not tolerate any unfounded allegation against our people just because some terrorist in your country had been killed. And that too, terrorist is not Canadian citizen. He had Canadian permanent residence, not Canadian citizenship. And he was involved in it is a well-known secret that
Meanwhile, the situation on the Korean Peninsula is no better. North Korea has deployed troops on the border, saying it is prepared to blow up border roads and fire at South Korean forces if needed. Of course, South Korea is responding in kind. It says it is ready to counter any military threat from the north. So this is a full-blown military standoff. But what triggered this crisis? North Korea claims it has spotted drones flying over its capital, Pyongyang. Here is a report.
There aren't many ways to know what's happening in North Korea. So every time Pyongyang airs a newscast, it grabs the world's full attention. Usually these broadcasts amplify the propaganda of the Kims. But over the weekend, Pyongyang had a much more ominous message to deliver.
The most hostile and malicious rogue state, the Republic of Korea, committed such a grave political and military provocation as infiltrating drones into Pyongyang, the capital city of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The case is a serious provocation that can neither be overlooked nor be pardoned.
In the past, such threats would have been easily dismissed as rhetoric. But that isn't the case this time. Pyongyang is quite serious. It has asked its troops on the southern border to be ready to attack. Seoul's assessment is more grave. South Korea says Pyongyang could blow up roads leading up to the border.
We have identified covers being set up on roads, with work being conducted behind them. Preparations are being made to blow up those roads. It's possible that this could happen as early as today, and as North Korea has publicized, they may proceed with the explosions.
할 수 있을 거라고 생각.
What has made Pyongyang so upset? It claims drones were spotted in its airspace. The regime has shared some pictures. They show a white-winged object against a dark sky. North Korea says this object was detected at least thrice this month. Pyongyang claims this is a South Korean drone and it is being used to drop propaganda material in the north. Pyongyang says it found some leaflets with inflammatory rumors and rubbish. This is the first time North Korea has levied such an accusation. But in recent months, Pyongyang itself has dropped balloons, often filled with bags of rubbish in the south. What is South Korea's response? Seoul says it can neither confirm if these claims are true or not. But it blames the North for raising tensions. The two Koreas have been locking horns for several months now. American military presence and joint drills with South Korea have long caused friction with North Korea. This has led Kim Jong-un to intensify his nuclear program and issue more threats. Earlier this month, Kim warned that if a conflict arises with the US or South Korea, he won't hesitate to use nuclear weapons. The current tensions create the conditions for Kim to follow through. We can only hope that it doesn't come to that.
In the United States, they're counting down to the presidential election. Less than a month to go. Both sides are on a campaigning blitz. On Saturday, Donald Trump was at Coachella. That's in the U.S. state of California. He was holding a rally there. And the choice of venue was strange. California is a blue state. It's a Democratic stronghold. In 2020, Donald Trump lost the state by almost 30 percentage points, 3-0. And this time should be no different. Especially because this is Kamala Harris's home turf. She was born and raised in this state. She was Attorney General here. So Donald Trump's decision to campaign in California was a bit odd. But what made headlines about this rally was something else. The arrest of a man on the same day, close to where Trump was going to speak. The man's name is Wem Miller. He's 49 years old. He was driving a black SUV near the location when he was stopped at a security checkpoint. His car was searched. Guess what the police found? Illegal weapons, a shotgun and a loaded handgun. Also fake press passes, passports and driver's licenses. So Miller was taken into custody, only to be released later on bail. The Secret Service believes that he poses no threat to Trump and that this incident has no bearing on the security arrangements. But the local police disagree. They say that they stopped a third assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
You're asking me right now? I probably did have deputies that prevented the third assassination attempt. If we are that politically lost, that we have lost sight of common sense and reality and reason, that we can't say that, holy crap, what did he show up with all of that stuff for and loaded guns, and I'm going to be accused of being dramatic? We have a serious, serious problem in this country because this is common sense and reason.
You heard him. This was the Riverside County Sheriff. And this is all very politically charged, the atmosphere in the U.S. Critics say that he's a Republican. He supported Trump in the past. And he says that Miller was plotting to kill Donald Trump. The Secret Service, though, sees no threat. So there's a clear divide here. The local police says it's an assassination bid. Federal agencies say it wasn't. We cannot verify either version. But you don't really have to be an expert to know that a man carrying weapons and fake IDs should be a problem. Also, Donald Trump had a close shave just a few months back. In July, he was addressing a rally in Pennsylvania. A gunman opened fire. A bullet hit Trump in the ear. It could have been worse. Then in September, another man tried to kill him at the golf course, and now this has happened in California. These assassination bids have become a big issue in the presidential election. They're also firing up Donald Trump's supporter base.
Here for President Trump today. We've been here for an hour. We went to the Glendale rally. He is the man. We loved our secure borders and our economy was great. We had jobs. We want him back. We want our country back. Go Trump.
I just wanted to come to show support for Trump. He's our last hope. The fake news media has ruined this country and ruined a lot of people, and they gaslight everybody. So it's important to show your support and show that this movement is huge and that this is who we need to run our country.
And it's showing in the national polls. In July, Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race. Kamala Harris took his place. By September, she was leading in most national polls, opinion polls. But those gains have now been erased. Look at the ABC Ipsos poll. Last month, Kamala Harris had a 6-point lead. This month, it has come down to 2 points, a 2-point lead. Harris is at 50%, Trump at 48%. Then there's the NBC poll. Last month, Harris had a 5-point lead in this poll. This month, the two candidates are neck and neck. Both are at 48%. And these were the national polls. Let's also look at the swing states. It's a mixed picture here. In Pennsylvania, which is now being called the most important state, there is some good news for Kamala Harris. She's leading by 3 points. But in Arizona, Donald Trump is ahead. He's at 51% compared to Harris's 46%. So basically, both candidates are locked in a dead heat. Which brings us to the question, how did Kamala Harris's lead erode? Thanks to two crucial Democratic voter bases, the Hispanics and the African Americans. Harris has not been able to get through to them. She has shored up support among women, but the men, they remain reluctant. And this is worrying the Democrats. So they are pulling out the big guns.
Women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time. They've been raising us and working and having our backs. And when we get in trouble and the system's not working for us, they're the ones who are out there marching and protesting. And so now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you? Because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down. That's not acceptable. That's not, this shouldn't even be a question.
Some strong words there by Barack Obama. He is like Batman for the Democrats. Every time they're in trouble, Obama enters the picture, and you can understand why. He's still very popular. The party's voter base loves him. So who better to rally them? But will Barack Obama's words be enough? Will they give Kamala Harris the boost that she needs? Guess we'll find out in about 3 weeks. Now let's talk about Elon Musk. He may be getting into trouble on Earth, but in space, things are going pretty well for him. On Sunday, his company SpaceX launched its Starship rocket, and this one made it to the history books. You see, rockets are launched using something called boosters. Now, usually a booster separates from the main rocket at some distance, it falls back to Earth, or it burns. But not this SpaceX booster. It performed a controlled descent, landing into the arms of two huge mechanical chopsticks. In simpler words, SpaceX basically caught its booster. And why is this historic? Because this saves a lot of time and money. They won't have to build a new one to launch the next rocket. Our next report tells you why reusable rockets could be the future.
3, 2, 1.
It was early morning in South Texas. SpaceX had just completed its 5th test flight. But this wasn't just another launch, it was a leap into uncharted territory. The Starship blasted off from the Boca Chica Starbase in Texas. Around 65 kilometers from the Earth, the Super Heavy booster separated from the rocket. But it didn't plummet back to Earth. In fact, it made a picture-perfect controlled return to the same pad in Texas.
Booster coming in hot for booster.
At the heart of this plan is Mechazilla, a 400 feet tall titan of technology. Its mission, to catch the descending booster mid-air using two enormous mechanical arms, aptly named chopsticks. This moment was critical. The chopsticks had to reach out, perfectly timed, and snatch the falling booster from the sky. This daring maneuver is unlike anything ever attempted, and social media couldn't get enough of it. So what makes this so historic? You see, boosters play a crucial role in launching rockets. They are usually attached to the sides. They are often solid fuel, so they burn very quickly. That gives the rocket the thrust it needs to take off. Once the boosters have done their job, they separate from the main rocket. Most traditional rockets have expendable boosters. They fall into an ocean or a designated area. Most are destroyed on impact. There are also some reusable boosters, but all of them land on floating ocean platforms or designated landing pads. The SpaceX feat was nothing like this. Catching the booster saves a lot of effort. First, you don't need complicated machinery on ground. And second, it saves a lot of time and money. It's the first step to making rockets reusable. If the booster is caught, you can redeploy it in the future. It saves the money of developing a new booster. Plus, it reduces time between launches from months to just days. So this now paves the way for a future where rockets don't just fly, they return ready to fly again. Of course, NASA will be very happy with this. It's paid the company nearly $3 billion to take astronauts back to the moon. But America is not alone in this race. China's space industry is working to develop reusable launch vehicles to rival SpaceX. It plans to debut them in the next couple of years. Russia, too, is planning to go the reusable route with its new Amur rocket in 2026. The Amur is said to be a lot like the SpaceX Falcon 9. India, too, is venturing into this. It has approved the development of a new reusable rocket launcher. So, reusable rockets are definitely the future. And SpaceX has shown the way. Elon Musk says he dreams to ferry astronauts to the moon and even Mars. This is the first step to that. The next is to build a fully reusable rocket, which could be a game changer in the quest to conquer space.
Pakistan is gearing up to host the SEO Summit. That's the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO. It has 10 full-time members, including India, Russia, China and Iran. All of them will be participating. They're sending some 900 delegates to Islamabad. And their top priority is this: making it out alive. It is not an exaggeration. Islamabad is under a total lockdown. Schools and businesses have been shut. Movement has been restricted. And the city is crawling with security personnel. Reports say 10,000 police officers have been deployed, and with good reason. Just last week, we saw 2 attacks in Pakistan. 2 Chinese nationals were killed in a terror attack in Karachi, and 21 minors were shot dead in Balochistan. So the threat alert is very high, and it will remain so over the next 2 days. That's when the SEO Summit will happen, Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, most of the meetings will happen in the Red Zone. The Red Zone is a special area in Islamabad. It houses the Parliament and the diplomatic quarters. And guess who's securing this Red Zone? Pakistan's army. It promises to be a new challenge for them. We know they can plot terror attacks, but this time they have to thwart them. Let's see if they can adapt. And it's not just the terror angle. There is a political security issue as well. Imran Khan's party, the PTI, has planned a rally tomorrow. They know foreign media will be covering this summit, so they're looking to capitalize. They want to be in the headlines. They want to highlight the plight of their jailed leader. Frankly, it's not the ideal setting for a summit, especially for a country like Pakistan. They have 3 goals here. First and most important one is to project normalcy, to show the world that Pakistan is safe to travel to, safe to host such meetings, important meetings. Second, to make progress with China. China's premier has already landed in Islamabad. He was welcomed by Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. This is the first visit by a Chinese premier to Pakistan in 11 years. It also comes at a tense time. Chinese nationals are being attacked in Pakistan. Most of their investments are also stalled. So the Iron Brotherhood is rusting. And Prime Minister Sharif will be looking to fix that, to reignite the old chemistry. Which brings us to the third objective of Pakistan, a regional pitch. It is no secret that Pakistan's economy is struggling. Their only hope of a revival is foreign investments. And why will they get foreign investments? Islamabad is betting on its location. The plan is to turn Pakistan into a regional transit hub, one that can link Russia and Central Asia to Indian Ocean ports. It's a solid idea on paper. But you see, ideas need stability to implement. And that's never been Islamabad's strength. A lot of you will also be wondering about India. So we can tell you, yes, New Delhi is participating. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is representing India and Pakistan at the SEO Summit. The visit itself is quite symbolic. It's the first trip to Pakistan since 2015. That's when former Minister Sushma Swaraj visited the country. So what should we expect this time? Bilaterally, nothing. Expect nothing. Jaishankar made that very clear this month. He's going there for the SCO. Bilateral issues are not on the agenda. For that, Pakistan must stop supporting terrorism. And beyond that, a couple of things. India has used the SCO for mainly three purposes. One is to work with Central Asia. 4 of the 5 stans are SCO members. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, they're all members of the SCO, and this is a focus area for India. It's a region that is blessed with resources like natural gas, and New Delhi is eyeing that. India is also developing the Chabahar port in Iran. The plan is to use this port to get access to Afghanistan and Central Asia, and that too without touching Pakistan. So this port, Chabahar, will be like a bypass. The second objective for India is to thwart China. Beijing wants to turn the SCO into an anti-Western bloc. New Delhi does not want that. Like Jaishankar said, India is non-West, not anti-West. It wants to keep the focus on other issues like connectivity and economy. Which brings us to India's third objective, to combat terrorism. A lot of SCO members are facing this challenge. Russia, for instance, had a terror attack last year. Central Asia is dealing with the Afghanistan fallout, and India has always been a victim of terrorism emanating from Pakistan. So New Delhi will look to highlight that issue. Of course, the main perpetrator is the host itself, which actually sums up the problem. On paper, the SCO has great potential. It makes up 40% of the world population, also 30% of the global GDP, but there are too many contradictions there. India and China have differences, India and Pakistan have differences, Russia and China have differences. So the outcomes rarely make headlines. And this time with Pakistan hosting it, the bar is even lower.
Zaka, big move this, perhaps the strongest action that's been taken, and would you agree if we say that the relationship with Canada is at its all-time nadir?
Low. India has never withdrawn a Canadian High Commissioner or Indian High Commissioner in Canada ever before. So this is in that sense a very unprecedented step, and if you look at the MEA statement, it was on the basis of these baseless targeting of the Indian High Commissioner Sanjay Kumar Verma, who's been named as a person of interest. That is as good as saying that he's a suspect in a murder investigation, as well as other diplomats and officials in Canada. This was completely unacceptable to India, and therefore the Stewart Wheeler, who is the chargé d'affaires, the highest ranking official of Canada available in Delhi at this time, was summoned to the MEA, and he was conveyed that, look, we are withdrawing our ambassador. It's a huge move, Anand, because the last time India withdrew its High Commissioner or ambassador from any country was in Pakistan. This was in 2019 after the abrogation of Article 370. Both countries had withdrawn their respective High Commissioners. Even at the height of the Devyani Khobrgade episode that was in 2013, where our diplomat had to be forcibly brought back, the High Commissioners were still very much active. The ambassadors were very much active. So recall of High Commissioners or ambassadors usually happens at a time when countries are at war with each other. So to that extent, and that too, recalling the High Commissioner of a Western country is a very unprecedented move. I think the government of India, basically the last straw was what happened in Vientiane at the ASEAN Summit just a few days ago. The Prime Minister was there, and there were these reports of Justin Trudeau meeting the Prime Minister, confronting him with new facts, so on and so forth. But fact of the matter is that he made those allegations way back in September of 2023, the Prime Minister of Canada, on the floor of the Canadian Parliament. It's been over a year and there's been no material evidence that has been provided by the Canadian authorities to substantiate the allegations made by Justin
it is
Trudeau.
very interesting because the Canadian envoy there, the CDA, Zaka, just now is on record saying that we have submitted detailed evidences to showcase the connection of the Indian High Commission with these elements. That's what they are saying. They claim we have shown detailed evidences, whereas Bharat has said that no evidence has been so far produced, and these are just baseless charges. We've been asking year on year, give us actionable intelligence, and all that's been shared by Canada has been shared with some of the other Five Eyes nations, and there's nothing that's been shown which is concrete when these allegations are made. Ambassador J.K. Tripathi is with us. Ambassador Tripathi, how would you see this big step? Zaka was saying after Pakistan, other than Pakistan, this step has not been taken with any other nation. So is this an
Yes, you are correct. But this having Canadian allegation to Indian High Commissioner there in Ottawa is completely uncalled for and completely unacceptable. I mean, no High Commissioner, not at least from India, no Indian High Commissioner or ambassador can put his reputation or his country's reputation at stake by being involved in somebody's case. This is atrocious, and we had been shouting from the rooftop for last more than 1 year that okay, give us evidence, and now after 1 year they come up and say that here is the evidence, which is nothing. So this is, I think this is very good step by Indian government. And next will be that Canadian High Commission